Hello there and welcome back to our class. So we mentioned that we're going to see something, discuss about process models. So process models, as we said, there is a process is there. The software process is being used for developing a software product. So building computer software is an iterative social learning process. Understand? This is iterative social learning process. So what we mean by this is that when we are building a software, it's not that the software is being built, say, in a standalone environment as such. We keep on communicating with customers. Within the team, we'll have some people working as a software requirement gatherers, some designers, some coders, some implementers, some testers, and some maintainers. So they all also communicate with each other. So as a process, if you see, software engineering as a process, it's a iterative social learning process. People keep on learning, communicating with each other and learn from each other. Second, the outcome is an embodiment of knowledge collected, distilled and organized as process is conducted. The outcome, because outcome may be a software, outcome is a software itself. Apart from that, we'll have documents, we'll have coding documents, we have comments, we'll have requirement specification documents, we'll have design documents. So all these are going to create some kind of a knowledge base. Like we mentioned earlier also, we'll have some kind of a reusability in that case. So that's what we say is a software process is going to provide us. Now, software process as a framework, we have mentioned something called as framework activities and umbrella activities. So in that case, process consists of activities, actions and tasks we mentioned. So as a framework for activities, actions and tasks. So understand there is a hierarchy in this case. Hierarchy is every software process will have umbrella activities and framework activities. So activities are there. Within the activities we have multiple actions, and with each action we have multiple tasks. That's the hierarchy we say. So tasks are the smallest element which will be part of some actions. There may be multiple actions within activity. An activity is a part of a process model as such. Okay? So that are required to build high quality software. So one may ask a question that is it that when we are talking about software process, is it synonymous with software engineering? The answer is both yes as well as no, because a software process will define the approach that is undertaken as software is engineered. We mentioned software is engineered. So process will define the approach. Software process will define an approach that will be undertaken for engineering of the software, for building the software. However, software engineering also encompasses technologies that will be used in the processes. So we can say there are technical methods, or there may be some kind of a automated or semi-automated tools. One more thing, software engineering will be performed by people like you who are creative, who will be knowledgeable, who are knowledgeable, who will be more knowledgeable. So software engineering will be performed by software engineers who are knowledgeable, who are very creative, and who are also very adept at maneuvering or maintain or making it sure that whatever changes are there, they are included. They can work with the mature software processes. They can look for what is appropriate for the product that they are building. What are the current market conditions? So they can learn these things based on which they can provide us, or they can say, okay, this is a software product that is available that you can use. Right? So these things are available. And then, as we are mentioning, there are activities are there. So we say there are framework activities in which we say there is a communication, there is planning, there is modeling, construction, and then there is a deployment. And then there are framework activities are also there, which we have seen. Will come in the next slide also. I will show you. So we have this is something called as generic process model. So you see what you are seeing here is, so this is a part of a software process. So process will include, so there is a process framework. There's a framework activities are there, and there are umbrella activities. So you see, umbrella activities are throughout. They are complementary and they are throughout the project. And then you have something called as framework activities. So you see there in the framework activities we are having actions, and within every action we have certain tasks. So we are labeling in that case as such. So if you see, there is a framework activity number 1. With the framework activity number 1 we have software engineering action number 1.1, and within that we have task set. So work task, then we have work products, quality assurance points, then project milestones. So these are all parts of this task set, and which are performed for specifically for this action 1.1. Similar kind of a task set will be there for action 1.k or 1.2, 1.3, whatever actions are there, which are part of this activity. So that's why I mentioned hierarchy is, you have activity, action, and then task. So this will be all these framework activities, okay, from communication. So framework activity 1 may be communication, second may be planning, then modeling, construction, deployment. And behind the screens we'll be also looking for all the umbrella activities, which will be looking at all these framework activities like project tracking and control, risk management, quality assurance, configuration management, technical reviews. These will be performed simultaneously for every framework activity. We are going to do this kind of activities. Okay. Then when we are talking of these things, invariably we have some kind of a flow. So when we talked about communication, planning, modeling, construction, deployment, we can understand that yes, there is some kind of a flow. So a process, these framework activities which are part of a process as such, software process, are showing me some kind of a flow. So communication will be first activity. After communication is done, I can go for planning. Then I will go for modeling, construction, and deployment. So we have 4 different process flows which will be defining these things. So first is a linear process flow, which says that all these activities will perform one after other in linear fashion. So, okay. So first communication is done, it's complete. Then we'll go for planning. After planning is complete, we go for modeling. The modeling is complete, construction, deployment, then maintenance activities will be performed. That's a linear flow. So we are not coming back to the previous activity as such. So what is really said is, you're freezing that phase. So once communication activity is done, we have freeze the communication documents. We have freezed SRS document, which will not be modified. Then you do the planning, you freeze the planning model, planning document. Then you perform modeling, all the modeling activities, tasks, actions will be freezed, no changes. Then next we have iterative process. What happens here is, you continuously keep on taking a feedback, and based on the feedbacks you may keep on changing certain things. Like you do communication with the customers and all stakeholders, and then pass it to the planning team. You do planning, there you identify that something is amiss. Then again you go for the communication, verify that something is missing. We feel that this is what is missing. Do you think the same way? Have you forgotten to give us some kind of a requirements? Have you forgotten to inform some kind of a some of your stakeholders? Okay, in planning we will come to that. Then modeling will be done repeatedly, okay, till the time you get a required design which fits your requirements. So keep on working on multiple models. Then go for construction. Now during the construction phase, you may see that okay, I have missed something, or there is something which needs to be performed, which is not done. There is some change required. Again, you can come for the communication phase. There's another way to say it. It's not that we are just taking feedbacks like this and coming back. You may be using it for part by part. You do communication, you do planning, you create these documents. After this, you model. And when we are doing construction, when you're coding, create a small part of the say project software, maybe called as a core functionalities. Build core functionalities, give it to the user or the communication requirement team as such. They will check whether this core functionalities are functioning or not. They'll give your feedback. And again, if there are some changes required, you can go for planning, modeling, construction phase. If core functionalities are okay, you add subsequent functionalities. for which again communication, planning, modeling, construction will be performed. So likewise, this will keep on, we will keep on doing it iteratively till the time my entire product is ready, and then I'll deploy the product. Okay? So that's iterative phase or iterative process flow is being done. Next is evolutionary process flow. What happens in this case is, again we started with the communication, so phases remain the same, 5 phases. Only thing is their flow, how these activities are being performed is being changed. So in this evolutionary process flow, what we are saying is the software product is getting evolved. Yeah? So initially you have only core functionalities. If they are working fine, we add more functionalities, more functionalities, more functionalities. So your product is increasing in size, in functionalities. So that's what we say, sir. Increments are released. So you keep on releasing the increments. So evaluation process models does the communication, planning, modeling, construction, deployment, and after the deployment means you have released one increment. Okay? So initially you may have a core product is released. The customer will start using it. So this may be required that customer says, okay, you first give me the core functionalities. I want to give to my users so that they can start using the software, and then you, for additional functionalities, you may take some more time. But right now, I require this functionalities to be developed rapidly. So that we say it's called as RAD model also, rapid application development, or incremental model too. So in that case, we see this kind of a phenomena that my software is getting evolved. Then I can also have a process model called as parallel process flow. So in this case, activities will be done in parallel. Some activities will be done in parallel, like communication. After communication, planning is performed. However, when communication is being done, that time I am also modeling, and during the planning phase also I am doing modeling. So communication and planning may be sequential, but when these are being done simultaneously, I am doing modeling also. Okay? And then I can go for construction and deployment. So modeling activity here is done in parallel. So when communication is being performed, simultaneously you are building a model, and when planning is performed, so you are also building a model. So communication is giving parallelly two things, a plan as well as a model. Okay? So that's a parallel process flow will be used in that case. Okay? So when to define these framework activities, so we'll see there are three things are there in this case: defining framework activities, then getting the task set, identifying task set, and then identifying the process patterns. Okay? So we'll see these three things. So in the defining of framework activities which were mentioned, like communication, planning, modeling, construction, and deployment, we have to identify with every activity what actions are appropriate for the current framework activity. It may be communication, planning, whatever the activities are there. Given the nature of problem to be solved, the characteristics of the people doing the work, and the stakeholders who are sponsoring the project. So these are the questions which needs to be answered, so that will define my framework activity. So these questions may be common for all framework activities, or you can keep on adding and removing also some of the questions in that case. But obviously one is to understand that yes, these kind of activities are required. This kind of a question should be asked as and when I want to perform, I want to define framework activities. Sorry. So these framework activities will be performed one by one. So for we are telling something about the communication activity here. So if project is small, for a small project, a phone call is sufficient. You just make a phone call to the customer and ask, okay, tell me what are your requirements. So make a contact with stakeholder via telephone, discuss requirements and take notes. Okay, so whoever is your requirement gatherer is there, we will collect these requirements from the customer just over a phone call. So we will make a phone call and talk with the stakeholders or all the customers. These are the requirements. This is what say is to be built. These are the functionalities, required functionalities. These are the core functionalities. These are additional functionalities. So for small software, just a phone call is sufficient. Then organize these notes into brief written statements of requirements and email to stakeholders for review and approval. This will be done for small project. However, if a project is complex, multi-stakeholder project is there, a simple phone call is not sufficient. In that case, you may have to take multiple meetings. You have to meet the stakeholders together as well as separately. So in such cases, we say we require inception, elicitation, elaboration, negotiation, specification, and validation of requirements from the customer. So every stakeholder is of value. Every stakeholder is important because they are the one who are going to sponsor your project. Customer is going to use your project. So if a project is bigger one, if it's a complex big software project, then in that case you first, even for the communication phase, do the inception. You identify the communication activity will involve all these things, okay, and you talk with them, you inform them what these are the activities. So elicitation means you are enlisting. These are the all activities, these are all requirements we identify. So then elaborate that within each activities, these are the functions, and these functions will perform these kind of activities. You may have to negotiate that yes, this function can be included, this function cannot be included, this function is difficult, this function is simpler one, this function has this kind of say repercussions if it is implemented and if it is not implemented. So you have to do some kind of negotiations. Then do specification of requirements. So once after doing this kind of a rounds of inception, elicitation, elaboration, and negotiation, then you can do specification, specify these requirements based on this communication, and then even after specification, you validate these requirements from your customer or stakeholders. So depending on whether the activity is small or whether when the project is small or bigger, we have these different kinds of say activities to be performed, and the process may be different in each case. That's why we mentioned process or the use of process will differ based on the project. So from project to project, process activities may change. Okay? So the basic activities remain the same. However, processes will change from project to project. So second activity in this case is identifying a task set. We are seeing the framework activity first. So we have activity, actions, and task set. Now we are looking for task set. Identifying a task set. So task set, a collection of software engineering work tasks related to work products, quality assurance points, and project milestones. That's why I mentioned in the slides. If you see, when we talked about this thing, we mentioned that there is a framework activity, and in the task set we have work task, work products, quality assurance points, and project milestones for every task. So this has to be included. Sorry, let me go to the next slide. Current slide is this one. Okay? So this has to be there. So we have to identify this task set for every activity. Okay? For every action, we have to identify this task set, because task set action is something which is going to provide some kind of a product. Work product will be provided by this task set actions. So we have activities. Within the activities we have actions. Actions are going to provide me some milestones or work products. Then define the actual work to be done to accomplish the objectives of software engineering action. Okay? That's what we say. Define actual work, because tasks are at the lowest level. So actions are populated by task sets or tasks. So if you see, the actual work is done by this task, and this task is going to provide me some kind of a small say products or produce. These produce will be integrated to call them as a output of an action or produce of an action. So that's why we are saying this is the actual work being done in this task as such. So the goal of requirements gathering is to understand what various stakeholders want from the software that is to be built. So again, we are taking communication, and this is the example which we should be talked of. Right? You see here, again, for small and relatively simple project, the task set for requirements gathering might look like this. We have some 6 tasks mentioned here. So again, make a list of stakeholders for the project, because you want requirements. Requirements are coming from stakeholders, from customers and stakeholders. So customers are going to provide you maybe functional requirements. Additionally, the stakeholders may add, okay, you add these functions also in this, so that if we want to reuse this product or to sell this product to somebody else, with addition functionalities will be also ready. So apart from the customers, you uh, take from management stakeholders also. So make a list of stakeholders for the project. Invite all stakeholders to an informal meeting. You tell them that we are going to build this kind of a product. These are basic requirements which we identified. You tell more about this, what all things to be built. So they will definitely give you some kind of inputs. Ask each stakeholder to make a list of features and functions required. You are telling them that yes, we are going to build some kind of a game. Okay, say PUBG is to be built. I'm just giving an example. Okay, don't play PUBG. I don't recommend playing of PUBG in any way. So you ask stakeholders individually, write what are the features you want in this product. They will note down. What are the functions you expect? What kind of a GUI you want? What kind of a say performance requirements you have? On what devices you want this to be used? So accordingly you can tell. So this stakeholders will do those things. Then discuss these requirements. So first it's an informal meeting. It's not a formal meeting. You're just asking for them, whatever their say opinions are. You're collecting all those opinions, discussing these requirements, and build a final list of features and functions required. Then you prioritize the requirements, identify which are core requirements and which are supplementary requirements, and note areas of uncertainty, risk. We said we need to perform risk management also. So apart from your framework activities, we're also looking for the umbrella activities to be performed for every activity. So for this requirement gathering, for a small project, we are having this kind of a things to be performed, or a task set for requirement gathering. When we are having a large project, the task set will include, again, making a list of stakeholders for the project. Making a list of stakeholders for the project. Interview each stakeholder separately. It's not an informal meeting, because it's a big project, it's a complex project. So you are inviting each stakeholder separately to determine overall wants and needs. So features and requirements from every customer. Done. Next, build a preliminary list of functions and features based on stakeholders' input, which they are given you individually. Schedule a series of facilitated application specification meetings. So here is the place we are going to tell, okay, these are then meetings will be performed where you are going to tell them, okay, this is what we are trying to build. This application specification means you can also call it as a specifying all the, because you just enlisted first preliminary list of functions. Now this is a series of say meetings we are going to tell these are our functions. We are specifying that we are going to have these functions as core functions. These are supplementary functions. These are the performance metrics which will be utilized. So all these things will be performed in these meetings. We conduct meetings with all stakeholders say separately. Sometimes you can merge also. Then produce informal user scenarios as part of each meeting. So actual users may not be available. So informally you are creating user scenario. If my user is novice user, if my user is say a middle level user, if my user is an expert user, how they are going to use the same software. Okay? So create user scenarios as a part of each meeting, so that you can test, actually you can provide that yes, this part will be used in this fashion. Refine user scenarios based on stakeholders feedback, because once you say this is software will be used by this user like this, they'll say no, our novice user definition is not like this, our novice user is like this, which may be a middle level say user also. So like we say, there's a beginner, when you play a game, we have a beginner game, then we have middle level, then we have sophisticated or expert game player is there. Same applies here also. We say a user may be a novice user, middle level user, or expert user. So based on the user, based on the stakeholders' feedback, then you change the user scenarios or refine them. Then build a revised list of stakeholder requirements. Revised list. You keep on doing these things till the time you get the final requirement documents. Use quality function deployment techniques to prioritize these requirements, and then package requirements so that they can be delivered incrementally, because it's a large complex project. So here identifying some as core requirements, some as supplementary requirements, and they are providing that in the first package, in the first increment, we'll have these functionalities. In second package, along with the first increment or first product, will have additional. So you are evolving the product, you are increasing the product, you are incrementing the product in the subsequent phases or in subsequent increments in that case. So you provide them that yes, this is how our product will look like in the first phase, in second phase, in first delivery, second delivery, third delivery. Then note constraints and restrictions that will be placed on the system. Okay. It may be a user system, it may be the system in which it is being built or it will be utilized. So you can provide, generally we say the restrictions are there, that to use this software you require minimum this much of RAM, this much of hard disk space, this kind of a processor is required. It is mentioned because that's the restrictions. So we need to mention these kind of constraints will be placed for the use of a system, maybe for installation. Accordingly, also you can place these kind of constraints on development team too, and then discuss methods for validating the system, your software. Once it is ready, how it is to be validated, what kind of a test should be performed on this after integration to be done. So obviously with every increment, we are going to do something called as increment testing, okay, or integration testing will be performed. However, once the entire system is ready, you need to validate the entire system also. So you need to define the methods for validation of the systems. Then the last part in this is process patterns. Okay. So pattern. So we know pattern is always, we say the pattern means there is a repeated activity. There is something which is getting repeated continuously. That is called as a pattern. Okay. So pattern template provides a consistent means for describing a pattern. So there is a pattern template will be used. So you must have seen many patterns, like we say. So if you say image processing is there, you look for some kind of specific pattern. Okay. So patterns are always there, and once you know the pattern, you can create a pattern template. Okay. So like say if you say that I move the mouse in this fashion. Okay. So if you see, it's a kind of a bumpety pattern. I hope you remember it's a bumpety pattern. So continuously there are some kind of a bumps are being seen. So that becomes a pattern. So once I know that this is a pattern, I can create a pattern template, and I will try to fit the, as and when I see that this similar kind of a pattern is being seen in my process, I try to fit that into this pattern template, because it will help me in describing the problem very easily. So it provides a consistent means for describing a pattern, and patterns can be defined at any level of abstraction. Depending on what kind of a level of abstractions you are looking for, you can define the pattern templates or patterns. Okay? So this Ambler has proposed a template which we are listing here, and then we will provide an example of a pattern also. Okay? So he said first you write the pattern name, the forces behind the pattern, then type, that is stage, task, or phase pattern. So these are three types: stage pattern, task pattern, and phase pattern. Initial context, problem, solution, resulting context, related patterns, and known uses and examples. Okay. Let's see one example of for this. We are having this example pattern which is being talked of, or which is being discussed for requirements unclear. Okay. So they have seen that whenever, as and when we are having this kind of a problem, or you are seeing that the requirements are not properly defined. So pattern is defined. That requirements unclear is a pattern. Now in this case, sorry, sorry. So in this case, what we are looking for is the intent. This pattern describes an approach for building a model, a prototype that can be assessed iteratively by stakeholders in an effort to identify or solidify software requirements. So this pattern we have seen, the pattern is being seen as the requirements are unclear. So our intent is to make it sure that requirements will be clear in that case. So this pattern describes an approach for building a model. So the intent is to build a model for iteratively contacting or communicating with the stakeholders so that our requirements are properly defined. Type is, it's not a stage pattern, it's a phase pattern, because the requirements gathering is a phase. Okay? So in that phase we are having this kind of a pattern being seen. What is initial context? The following conditions must be met prior to the initiation of this pattern. First is stakeholders have been identified. So it may be the case that when you, the previous step we have mentioned is a identification of task sets. So when you are going for this next identification of a pattern and there you are seeing that requirements are unclear, these conditions are to be made before the initiation of this pattern, because this is related to requirements. So same example we are carrying out here. Stakeholders have been identified, it's a prior requirement. A mode of communication is established between stakeholders and software team. So my development team as well as stakeholders, so they are having some kind of a way of communication with each other. It's already established. Maybe meetings, maybe phone calls, maybe emails, maybe some kind of online meeting mechanisms are already established. The overriding software problem to be solved has been identified by the stakeholders. Overriding software problem has been to be solved is already identified. And an initial understanding of project scope, basic system requirements, business requirements, and project constraints has been developed. So this is ready. So initial context is, so for this specific pattern, requirements unclear pattern, this is being defined. So as and when you are having requirements unclear as a pattern, you are seeing that, you see that requirements are not properly defined, you have this template available. You just describe these things, you just put them in this template. Then there is a problem. So this problem may be specific to a project. So template is common, however this is a problem which is specific for your case. So requirements are hazy or non-existent. 8. There is clear recognition that there is a problem to be solved and the problem must be addressed with the software solution. So requirements are unclear, however everybody knows that there is some problem which is to be solved and solution is to be given by a software only. So what is not clear is requirements are not clear or they are not existent, they are not defined, they are unclear. Okay? But problem is known and problem has to be solved. Everybody agrees for this thing. So stakeholders are unsure of what they want. They don't know what they want to solve to get this problem solved. That is, they cannot describe software requirements in any detail. So there may be something, some product is there which they want to build, but for which they don't have requirements. So what is the solution? A discussion of the prototyping process would be considered. So this for unclear requirements, when requirements are not known or it's very difficult for customers to tell them that what kind of requirements I am having. So in such scenario, we can have a prototype process model that can be used. So what we are trying to say is, what is the resulting context? A software prototype that identifies basic requirements. So you first have some kind of interaction. You talk with customer, says I want this kind of a system. Okay? Say a banker comes and he say I want a machine which will give money, right? Which will give money, okay? And that money when withdrawal is being performed, that will be recorded somewhere in the account. But I don't know how it is to be done. Well, he is a banker, he don't know. So this banker as a stakeholder is not able to define the functionalities of ATM machine. Now what can be done? So you can just initially provide them a simulated environment. Okay, you want a machine which will give money to your customer. Okay, So you may require some kind of a mechanism. He may insert a card, or he may have his thumbprint noted, or he may provide some kind of a code. So initially you can create a prototype by which you can provide him a mechanism for withdrawing the money from that machine. So till now it's not ATM machine. So as soon as in the first he gets the prototype, okay, you are saying there will be card which will be issued by us, then he will insert the card and get the money. Oh, but how to identify if the card is lost? Okay, now you get the requirement. There has to be some kind of a pin. Okay, so along with the card there will be a pin. So insert the card, then insert the pin, and then you withdraw the money. Okay, now one more problem. He may be withdrawing the money which is more than the balance that he is having. Okay, then now make a check. So this way you can identify how these requirements can be identified, how the customer is say provide a facility through which he can identify more and more requirements, and it makes it sure that yes, now my requirements are identified and they are becoming clear and clear. Okay, so prototype model will provide that software prototype that identifies basic requirements. Okay, so mode of interaction, computational features, processing functions will be identified. Okay, so mode of interaction, like we mentioned for the ATM machine, insert the card, get the machine. Computational features, in okay, say check the balance, and then accordingly you withdraw. Then you set the limit. Okay, you can withdraw only this much of amount. And then processing functions. So initially you provide this is approved by customers, stakeholders, and then you do. Then following this, the prototype may evolve through a series of increments to become a production software. Or prototype may be discarded and a production software built using some other process pattern. So initial prototype, so this is where we are providing them context. Okay, now you can build a software because you don't know what your requirements are there. We are providing you a mechanism. So mode of interaction, computational features, and processing functions. So in the first prototype, you provide them. Okay, now you see that whether you're looking for this kind of a software system or not. It says okay, yes, I'm looking for this kind of a software system only. So either you can take more requirements now because he understood now this is how the software will be functioning. You know this is what he is asking for. Now he can tell you more requirements on top of it. So either that prototype may be evolved to become a full software or a complete software. Otherwise, what you can do is you discard this initial software, use some other process model to be used for building the pattern. But this has definitely helped you to identify the requirements. So our purpose was to identify requirements because the pattern was we identified that the requirements are not clear. So because requirements are not clear, we were providing them a facility by which the requirements can be identified. So then you identify some related patterns. The following patterns are related to this pattern. So you can define this. Customer communication is the pattern. Attitude design, iterative development, customer assessment, requirement extraction. These are other patterns which are being built, which can be used along with this pattern. Known uses and examples. Prototyping is recommended when requirements are uncertain. Okay, so this is where we use a prototyping model. Okay, so we are providing them a facility by which they can extract the requirements. Okay, so from requirements unclear to requirements becoming more clear. So for this case, solution provided is, so we have identified that we have process pattern, where pattern name is there, then we have intent, then we have some kind of requisites are there, then we define the problem specific to our system, we provide a solution that we can use a prototype for this kind of a pattern, and then what is the context, what are other related patterns, and then known uses and examples. That's how this system functions for process or for a software process in that case. Okay, so we discussed about the framework activities, defining framework activities, identifying task set for small projects, for large projects, and then also for patterns. We'll stop here. We'll again see the process models, descriptive process models in subsequent classes. Thank you.